taking up the, yes.
Up top left there, that's the proposed location for the shop, is that correct?
Yes.
It was down below on the left.
Right, this currently is located right here on that corner of the track right now, but that has been relocated. I'm not sure exactly if that's, I haven't talked to Mr. Thompson since we've gotten this drawing, if that's where you want it, or if you wanted it actually outside that fence or not, but it would probably be outside that fence?
No, it'd be right there.
It'd be right there, okay. Good. I didn't expect Brian to have made a mistake and be more mine. So you can see that. I think this drive really gives us some added benefit. It does have a little drive-in area there for people who would be picking up, either dropping off prior to games and events. We'll take a different look. That's a bird's eye view from the southeast. Looking at it, you can kind of see the parking there. Here's a view of the gate. We have talked about the fact that this is Fred Park Field. We certainly want to preserve that. We've talked about that, especially as we think about the entrance, and that's something that Brian's come up with. Bluffton Tigers welcome you to Fred Park Field. Looking at this from the field back the other way, now you can see the actual size of these structures. This is a concession stand with the public restrooms. There is an official's dressing room back here. This would be the training room door here, located kind of centrally located to the overall stadium. This would be the varsity. This would be the Bluffton locker room. This would be the team meeting area, and this would be the visitors locker room door here. Taking a look at the concession building there. I'm going to flip this one a little bit so you can see it. These are the restrooms down here. This shows actually the one window of the concession, and if you go on around, you can see here's the other window of the concession stand there. So I think those are both 10-foot windows, Brian, is that right?
Yes.
Or 8-foot, 10-foot windows. And then this door that is here would be for the officials' dressing room. And then just a couple more views of the gate. You can see the other thing that was added. Let's see if I can show it from there. You do see that the flags, we are looking at a flag to put the American flag and the state flag and the Bluffton flag right there, and those are actually now going inside that track area to give us room there in the plaza as you kind of look down at it. Because that's going to be fairly crowded because there's some fencing in there, so we moved that there, and I think that'll give us ample space to collect people there. Any questions on that model as you look at it? Brian, do you have anything you want to add there?
I think you covered about all of it, so I can answer questions about it if there are any.
So the biggest change is being the parking area there.
Yeah, this kind of gives you a better look at that plaza area here, and then you can see the parking there. That's probably a better view of it.
You had talked about if this would be in that location, and I think Kent had mentioned it, that scoreboard would have to go to the other end, right? Because you coming in, it'd just be a better location for it.
Right, and that's something we've talked about. It's right now presently in this area, I think, and we are talking about relocating that to the north end of the stadium. That way when people are coming in, they would all automatically see how much time's left in the warm-up prior to the game. I think that's a much better location. And that's something that we talked about that our maintenance people can do. They installed that. So I think that's something that we'll be able to do on our own. Any other questions with the model? Okay, I'll show you, this is the latest version of the transportation facility. First of all, this gives you a general view of it next in comparison to the baseball field there. This is currently on the north side of the high school. This is Wayne Street out here, where Bluffton Motor Works parking is over here, and I think everyone has agreed and talked with many people in the community who feel like this is the best location. As you take a look at this, you can see that this space is getting smaller. That space, we talked a lot about how to reduce the amount of paving because the paving is an expensive part of the project, And Brian's come up with some really good design here that really, it's still a lot of paving, but you can see there's not any extra paving in there. That gives us some parking here for our maintenance people. This parking here would be for our 22 yellow buses that we have. And then this parking up here, which I know you can't see great, but that's, let's see if I can blow that up a little bit. This parking is for 3 minibuses, and then these are for individual bus drivers to park their vehicles near the area where their buses are parked. These two are the band and choir small trailers, which gives them a better location to park there. The big semi-trailer for band is located right here along this drive. And then you can see, and I can make this a little bit bigger. This is an actual picture of the structure. And here you can see the drive-through for the bus bay. Here is some storage areas, restroom, mop area, a meeting area for us to have meetings with bus drivers. And then this is the storage area, and he's actually kind of drawn to scale some of the items that we would put in there that are now located under the stadium or located in the barn off of Spring Street. This doesn't have drawn into it any kind of walls or anything yet, and obviously doesn't show all the storage that we presently have under the stadium or in the barn that would also need to be going there, but it does at least show some of the equipment such as mowers and things like that that we would have to relocate there. The other thing, as you'll notice, does include a stair up to here. This would give us access to actually store things on a second level above where we park the mowers and things like that.
The gas tank's gone, did we?
Right now, tentatively, there's a fueling station area here. We're looking at a wash area somewhere here, but we've got to do some more work there. We've had some preliminary discussions, and I think this week's meeting we'll talk more about the fueling area. That's going to
It
be.
makes more sense there than.
Yeah, I think so too.
One of the facilities that we looked at 5 or 6 years ago when we built this facility, and I know Dana was with us, but Gary, do you remember that? It had that second deck of storage and had that gave them a lot of room, because basically that's
dive deeper into it. My goal tonight is just kind of give you a brief history of Field Turf, the company, and also the product, and then just answer. I know there's multiple questions out there, and this industry is consumed by a lot of misinformation. It's amazing how many things are out there that people assume are correct, but once you dive into it and look for scientific foundations of what you're looking for, you kind of can solve those riddles much easier. So at that point, then you guys can fire away questions if you want, and I'll just be here as a resource for you. Field Turf was developed back in the early 90s, basically to replace the old AstroTurf. And AstroTurf was the nylon carpet that you saw NFL and NCAA programs playing on most of the time. The neon green, nasty, caused tons of injuries, very abrasive. And basically it was invented, necessity was a mother invention when they came up with AstroTurf. They built the Houston Astrodome. They put translucent panels in the ceiling. They put grass in there. Someone told them that they could grow grass through translucent panels. The grass failed miserably. They panicked. They had to come up with some type of surface that they could play on. They turned to the carpet industry because there was nothing else out there, and the carpet industry basically developed AstroTurf. AstroTurf was popular back then, and mostly because there was nothing else out there, and it served the purpose. It was multi-use. You could put tons of use of hours on it. It was weatherproof. You never had to worry about Mother Nature throwing a variable in for the games. The coaching staffs of those higher programs and NFL teams enjoyed those things. But we all know that the injuries they caused, as far as lower leg injuries, concussions, abrasions, and all those things were nasty. The cost of it also was very high, so it never filtered down for those two reasons, for injuries and for the cost. It never filtered down into secondary education, parks and rec, high schools, those types of things. It never made it down this far. So the founders of our company basically came up with and tried to develop a product that would be more closer to natural grass, and that's where Field Turf basically came from and evolved from. They spent 5 years testing all the different components, different ways to do it, methodology, how to put together, what components to use, spacing, all the other stuff that we basically know field turf is today. And they then patented all those things, and 5 years later brought it to market. AstroTurf was out of business 2 years later, and to date we've over 4,500 fields in North America alone. Out of those 4,500 fields, probably about 4,000 of those are high school or park district schools, just because of the sheer numbers. Volume is basically where it's at. About 90% of our business is in high schools and in park and rec. We've got about 300 NC1A, and we have about 25 NFL, and we have about 4 Major League Soccer fields. So that gives you some idea basically where it is. It's not so much like AstroTurf was, where it was only there for the NFL and the higher NCAA teams. We just did a school here in Indiana, Knightstown High School, which has about 350 students, and they put a field turf surface in. The reason is because it makes sense. It makes sense 2 ways. It makes sense, number one, for safety. The surface is safer than natural grass. We've done 2 independent studies that have been done on field turf, one at a high school level and one at NCAA. They both show that it's very marginal, but field turf is actually safer than natural grass. So it's either the same or it's safer in most of the injuries. They categorize 156 different injuries, and in all of those, field turf was either as safe or safer than natural grass. It has a lot to do with consistency. The surface stays the same. It's predictable underfoot. It never changes, unlike grass. And then the cost is the other thing that we talked about. It can make economical sense if you build the model on what you're going to spend on your natural grass over a 10-year span. We'll do the life cycle of field turf at 10 years. It can last longer, but 10 years is a safe number. It's based on use, basically. The more you use it, the faster it wears out. If you do that and then put all the inputs that you put into natural grass over that 10 years and then figure out what it is going to be cost per use hour, not per year or anything else. Believe it or not, usually the costs are almost the same over 10 years either way. They're close, but if you do what you can do, the advantage is the added use that you can put on field turf. So the bleachers, the concession stands, the lights, all the things that you have, the ancillary items there that you would use for a minimal amount of events, now can be used and be taken advantage of from everybody in the school district. From freshman girls soccer all the way up to varsity football, they're all using your A field, the prime stadium, and no one's being affected adversely. They're all getting to play on a premium athletic field that's safe, and it never changes underfoot. So there's no one that's going to complain that girls soccer is ruining it for varsity football or vice versa. So those are really, I mean, it's about a 3-to-1 ratio when we do these. We'll do an audit, a use audit for a school, and we can do this for you. And you basically say how often you're going to use the grass field, how often you would use it if it was field turf. It turns out that you would need 3 fields of grass basically to replace what you would use on 1 field turf surface. So that's where the costs start making a lot of sense. That was